lacking sentience at this point. Once it gains sentience, then we have all discovered God, at least the all-knowing God. There's a Buddhist tantra called Kalachakra. I'm sure many of you have heard, chiefly because the Dalai Lama has given so many times the Kalachakra initiation empowerment. And in the root text of the Kalachakra, it has a line that says, that which does not exist in the Kalachakra does not exist. I think Google has superseded Kalachakra by many times. that which does not exist in Google does not exist.
It's our new reality.
Now that new reality, only the characters have changed, right? The mechanics have not changed. So that is where the Buddha Dharma remains relevant. Because the Buddha Dharma speaks to the mechanics of happiness and suffering, the arising and the cessation of happiness and suffering, the nature of things rather than the temporary characteristics. Now, of course, the nature of things that were taught, the nature of things that is taught always through examples drawn about the characteristics of things. The characteristics of things change, like now the reality is Google and like these algorithms, right? I mean, we talk a lot about the algorithm and how they have taken over, like all these things about how scary it is. And when you read these articles, they make the point, at least, of like how these like no meaningful conversations can take place anymore. We're going into these like silos, right? We're going down separate rabbit holes, and the algorithm will keep opening doors that are more extreme for whatever you're looking for. Now, again, I think the particularities of that change, but the mechanics doesn't change. Yeah? Meaning, the conditions of suffering and happiness will always present themselves. But the causes of happiness and suffering are, in the end, only possible through our own volition. So if we think about karma as the principle of karma or causality as a combination of causes and conditions, causes meeting conditions lead to ripening of those causes into then what we call reality, right? The causes are still created by us. Causes are still created by us. And the conditions, So now, with the internet and all that, an extra dimension of conditions for the arising of happiness or suffering. In the end, it's still your power to exercise. Those algorithms, they feed on your hidden pleasures. They feed on your hidden pleasures. So even if you might start the search related to your aspirations rather than your pleasures, they read your pleasures very well. your afflictive emotions. They are built in a way that is very sensitive to exploiting our kleshas. Very sensitive. So even when you initiate a search that reflects your aspirations, they somehow can sniff out, your kleshas. So they test your kleshas and see if you bite. Once you bite, they give you more to bite, right? So we have to know when not to bite, So you have to learn enough of your own particular set of kleshas. Particularly sensitive to succumbing to this klesha or that klesha, right? Then you see, there it turning up as one of the possible things for you to click on. You click, it's not yet the end, because you can click and then also communicate back like, yeah, I'm only curious to this point, and whether is there the Illuminati or not, and then I'm not clicking the next one, and they won't give up, they'll come a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one. You with volition say no, it will stop. Really, I've been experimenting all sorts of things, it will stop, because they are built to sell and to be effective. They have no reason to badger you when they are convinced, okay, this person is not interested in this. And for them, interest means mostly kleshas, rarely aspirations. That maybe we can fault the system. To that degree, I think we can fault the system, whatever that is. And you take Buddha Dharma to heart, we will spend less time blaming the system. For ourselves, for our own conditions of suffering, to not blame the system. Compassion for others, maybe we need to see how systems are set up unjust, privileging one over the other. I think that's the dance and balance that we need to do. For others, we need to recognize the power of the system, whatever that system is. And whether intentionally or unintentionally, privileging one group and oppressing another group. And I think it's easier to see that and accept that if we take away the volition or the volition behind these unjust systems. I think it's hard to see clearly when we get stuck on, white males are out to oppress, that kind of thinking, that it obscures the mechanics of suffering, right? So don't, and then you get a reaction back, part of the political landscape, the problems of the political landscape is in part that, certain group being blamed. In order to have us see more clearly, right, justice of systems, it's best not to impute, and any, this particular group, or, bad than this group. I think it's just sufficient to leave it at, whatever the volition, whatever the intentions. And we know that the three poisons are involved. But then we all have the three poisons. So when the three poisons are involved, then certain structures are given birth, and those structures, it's good to see them, recognize them, so that we can have compassion for others. For ourselves, it's best not. Or blame, like, the cards that you have been dealt with. That's what you have. That's all. You work with what you have. Causes of suffering and the causes of happiness. They always belong to us. We can choose. Not always successful, but we can choose. Even not successful is a type of success if it is done with attention. With those failures, you actually learn. The other day I was sharing with some people here how they were caught off guard a little bit in what? I was sharing with them how, myself, going through periods of not having quote unquote formal practice every day, And it's kind of a shock for some people to hear that. I say, no, it's true, It's you, Whatever you think I am, I can tell you, periods where I don't do practice. But whereas in the past, it's I don't do my daily practice, and then periods of time, and then no good whatsoever came out of it. But now I can say I can salvage certain things. So I'm not saying that, the set of circumstances that lead to not wanting to do daily practice, good reasons. No, they are also kleshas. But then when that happens, then you turn the not wanting to do daily practice into the practice itself. As in, you don't look away. Every day, I'm not doing. But this is not about guilt. This is just watching, so that you're training your mind still. Almost like with volition, with intention, you now say, okay, you don't want to eat? Sure, let's not eat. It's like no more reasoning to why you should eat. It's good for you to eat. Da 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 da. Now go suffer some hunger. Then you suffer some hunger. At a certain point, you might even think, actually, I think I don't need to eat anymore. But before long, the conclusions that you need to come to, you will come to those conclusions, and then the practice will continue, yet in another form. We can keep our practice, but the practice will change form. Some of us are, again, more predisposed to keeping a routine, very good at that. But it doesn't necessarily mean, like you are making, you're growing, It just means you're very good with routines, Likewise, there are some that are not good with routines. It doesn't mean there's no hope. No, not at all. Knowing how to pay attention. Knowing how to pay attention is another way of talking about the same thing that's called mindfulness, right? Also another word for fancier Vajrayana style thing called devotion. Devotion, mindfulness, paying attention. Yeah, different words, different expressions, all in the same direction. Anyway, blah blah blah. What have you all been reading? What was last week's discussion?
I think we're somewhere in the middle of chapter 52, Rinpoche's departure for central Tibet.
Hmm. 52.
Where Rinpoche is pleading for basically like permission to leave, and Milarepa keeps saying, no, 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 stay here.
Mhm.
And then he leaves anyway.
Yeah. And where there
Let's see.
We're in the part where Milarepa had gone with him to see him off, but I can't tell you the page number because I
Right.
have it on my phone and it doesn't give me a page number.
619 I have.
Ah,
We haven't heard you speak about this chapter, and it starts off kind of interesting,
mhm.
or as a reason why Rinpoche even wanted or even considered it. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so Ray Chongpa is right. I've alluded to this. That there's a certain competitiveness between Ray Chongpa. I mean, totally on Ray Chongpa's side. Yeah, Milarepa is not. Milarepa is just one of the conditions there, right? So Ray Chongpa has this complex where simultaneously he recognizes that Milarepa is his guru, but he can't stop, right, competing with Milarepa. Well, I think it's a very interesting relationship there. Whatever I mean, when we read about this, stories of guru and disciple relationships, how they relate to each other and all of that. Often we have Milarepa's own story, that is the most kind of often quoted, often referred to, and it's Marpa and Milarepa. And then the usual description of how they relate to each other. To tell the truth, I've always felt like, I don't know about this Marpa figure, what to say, that's just the truth. That I'm like, I don't know, this Marpa figure is just kind of abusive. But then often, like Milarepa's devotion, like Marpa's unreasonable demands, it's all explained as the skillful display of Marpa's wisdom. Yeah, perhaps I'm willing, of course, to leave that door open. But the truth is, like, I don't know how I feel about Marpa. But we don't know much about Marpa. Marpa, we only know through. So I mean, let's just say that I'm ambivalent about the way in which Marpa is presented in our sources. As for Marpa, the actual person, who knows? Marpa, the actual person, since he is a link in this transmission that we call the Gagyu, and being a Gagyupa, of course, I can admire and respect that, But the truth is, like, the way Marpa is depicted, and also in the end, I think the way more interesting and helpful relationship to pay attention to is between Milarepa and Rechungpa. Especially for someone like myself who, play the role, wear the hat of being a teacher. Definitely, Milarepa's example is better than Marpa. And yeah, so Milarepa is again and again very patient with Rechungpa. Patient and kind and even indulgent. He never gives up on Rechungpa. And on many occasions, his words to Rechungpa, while kind, certainly doesn't mince words. I mean, tells Rechungpa, you're too full of yourself. And Rechungpa, you can see, like he gets it that he's too full of himself and he's trying to get rid of that, but he just can't help himself. So I think Rechungpa and Milarepa's relationship, how Rechungpa figures out throughout his life to be a perfect student, how Marpa is patiently trying to be the perfect teacher for Rechungpa. I think that relationship is very interesting, very instructive. Yeah, so beginning of 52, it says, some students compared the master and disciple, saying, the son is superior to the father because he has gone to India. But that's like the attitude in Trungpa's time. Trungpa's time is that Rechungpa, in a way, got, you could say, gain his street creds, his credentials. He has gone to the source, India. He has met these Mahasiddhas that we have only heard rumors about. Whereas his teacher doesn't know a word of Sanskrit, that Rechungpa. Never mind, like, did Rechungpa really do anything in India? It's hard to tell. We only know based on what he told us, what he did and who he met. If you want to be cynical about it, you're like, for all I know, Rechungpa was just, drinking chai tea and, not exactly understanding what's going on around him. Then a few months later went home and then say, well, I got this, and this, Interesting thing is, like, historically, scholars have pointed out, like modern scholars, it's like there's barely any corroborating evidence on the Indian side about the Tibetans who came down in search of Dharma. Indian people were very proud of being Indian, about being the center of civilization. So when these country bumpkins come down from the snow mountains, they didn't pay attention to that, really. All we're hearing about, how their adventures in India, who they met, this and that, is all one-sided, reported only on the Tibetan side. We don't really have Indian sources confirming it. Even indirectly, like I mentioned, like, these like very smart Tibetans came down and, studied the Buddhist Dharma and then brought back no mention of this. Rare, but there are mentions of Chinese Buddhist pilgrims that came to India. That you can find in Indian sources. For Tibetan, not a bleep. Also, like the historical evidence that we have shows not a bleep. The Indians didn't care to mention that Tibetans came, right, in search of Dharma. Anyway, Rechungpa was one of these figures who apparently went to India. And once you have gone to India, survive and come back, because the journey is treacherous, you gain people's admiration. So here in page 607, students, in comparing Milarepa and Rechungpa, actually Rechungpa, he knows more. But the younger students went to be in the presence of Rechungpa, but the older ones was around Milarepa more. At one point, the students came to offer their respect and service in the presence of the father and son. So now these two groups, so happens that Milarepa and Rechungpa was together, that all of these two groups of disciples, one dedicated more to Milarepa, and maybe the younger ones more dedicated to Rechungpa, and they all came together. Rechungpa, they made excellent offerings, but they offered only the smallest amount to Milarepa. And Rechungpa thought, if I had received this much, then the Jitsin has certainly received even greater offerings. But this is one of his blind spots, He doesn't get it that in his need, right, to prove himself, the way he has overproven himself, so that in this intimate circle of Milarepa and Milarepa students and Milarepa students and students, people are starting to disrespect the Grand Master. I didn't get it. So he went to the Jitsin and said, Jitsin, have you received excellent offerings today? Between the offerings received by us both, master and disciple, it would be good if we hold a Gana Chakra for all. Surely we have received all these, so let's pull together all these offerings and let's have a celebration, let's have a feast offering. Very well, Milarepa said, my share is over there under the slab of stone, go ahead and take it. When it went over there, there was a single piece of rotten meat, a gourd of sour beer, and a mere serving of tsampa. So he was shocked, He was shocked. So he then became aware, that the community has now gotten to a point where attention is on him and not on his teacher. So he's like, I gotta go away. I'm stealing his thunder. I gotta go somewhere else, right? Then rising early in the morning, he went to see Milarepa. In his cave, the Jitsin was lying down, rubbing his head. Gomrepa too was there in his bed. Rechungpa thought, my guru here has actualized the Dharmakaya for self-benefit, yet sometimes he acts with conduct that seems strange to others. So, Rechungpa cannot help himself. And in many ways, we all have this Rechungpa in us. Can't help ourselves. We get it, that the guru can't stop, judging, measuring. Luckily, in this case, Milarepa knows. The rest of us are not so lucky to have Milarepa like guru. But then when we get confused, then our confusion starts to infect, our teacher, and that teacher's confusion adds to our confusion, and then confusion compounding upon confusion, and everybody is confused in the end, Rinpoche was very fortunate, even though having these doubts. Not just doubts, right? But also arrogance. He's a decent person, logical about it when he's thinking straight, so to say. And you could see that his mere presence around Milarepa is causing other people to disrespect Milarepa. That's that. But then now, so now when he walked in early in the morning, so just to point this out. Anyway, hold on. Knowing that what Ray Chungpa was thinking, the Jitsin sent this song. Son Ray Chungpa, now please listen. I, your old father Milarepa, sometimes I sleep, and while I sleep, I meditate. When I meditate while I'm lying down, I have the instruction of ignorance dawning as luminosity. This is something I have, but no one else does. If everyone had this, I would be very pleased. I, your old father Milarepa, sometimes I eat. While I eat, I meditate. When I meditate while I'm eating. When I meditate while I'm eating, I have the key instruction for seeing food and drink as Gana Chakra. This is something I have, but no one else does. If everyone had this, I would be very pleased. Next, sometimes I walk, I meditate. Meditate while I walk. I have the key instruction for seeing walking as circumambulation. The next, sometimes I act, and while acting, I meditate. Meditate while doing this action. I have the key instruction for liberating action into Dharmata. Something I have, but no one else has. Then next, Son Ray Chungpa, you too should practice like this. May go get up and boil some gruel. So here, Milarepa takes this opportunity to basically say, I might look like I'm lazy. It might look like I'm sleeping in. And even slight suggestion that scandalous that, this other student is also sleep. I don't think, just to be obvious, I don't think there's any kind of scandalous in the sense like, are they sleeping together, that sort of a thing. In the ancient world, is a prime commodity that you try to get, So people sharing beds and all that is not so uncommon. It's more the fact that, they are still asleep, not like meditating through the night or, things like that. That was what I think principally what has been communicated here, So then finally, Milarepa tells the other students, okay, now go make some rice gruel, go prepare breakfast. Giving many reasons, Ray Chungpa then asked Milarepa for permission to go to U. Then he offered the Song of Realization. U is Central Tibet. Central Tibet. I wish to roam the countryside with no fixed direction and to go and circumambulate holy Hasa, to encounter the two Jowo statues in person, to see the glorious Samye, to circumambulate the Yoru Tadruk temple, to go and see the great seat of Mongok, to go and see both Loro and Miao, and beg for alms in the practice of equal taste. I beg you, I must go to U. So this is a kind of a nice inventory of, like, during that time, what are the important things to see and to do when you went to Lhasa. Lhasa literally means the city of the deities, the city of the gods. Ha, Sa. Ha is deity, Sa is like city of the deity, city of the gods. And so first of all is to circumambulate the city. So to this day, you go to Lhasa, there are 3 circumambulation routes that people do every day. Most people do the middling one, which takes only about, I would say, 15 minutes, even less, which is this route called the Ba Khor. Ba Khor is like a circular path around the temple called the Jokang. Jokang, Kang means like palace, means like house, means building. Jo is Jowo. So the house, the palace, the temple of the Jowo statue. So here they talk about the 2 Jowo statues, right? 2 Jowo statues. So basically, there are 2 very sacred Shakyamuni images in Lhasa. One is in the Jokang. This one is the one that today most people refer to as the Jowo statue, the Jowo statue that is in the Jokang. There's another Jowo statue, but people don't, these days at least, don't call it the Jowo statue. They call it the Ramoche, because it's in a temple down the road from the Jokang. Right? It's the Ramoche temple Shakyamuni statue. So now, at the time when this was composed or brought together, most statues apparently were known as the Jowo statues, Shakyamuni Buddha statues. So the circumambulation, the middle size one, takes about 15 minutes each. Circumambulation is the one where the Jowo temple called Jokang is. That's called the Ba Khor. Khor means circuit. Then there's the inside the temple in the courtyard. There's another small circumambulation, and that takes less than 5 minutes. But because that is so short and is usually crowded, people don't necessarily do that much. This Ba Khor one is easier to do, and you don't have to go into the temple and you have to stand in line, because many people are trying to go into the temple itself. If you want to just go into the courtyard, you also have to wait. So people don't wait to do the courtyard, but to do the middling one, 15 to 20 minutes. Now the Ba Khor is not so interesting, at least for me. But maybe I'm just, being a tourist. The tourist that's often, or a particular type of tourist, wants authenticity. And so authenticity often means, don't change anything there, please. I want time to be frozen. I want all these quaint looking buildings, But the people who live there, I don't know if they want it or not, So now it's been updated, Like the Ba Khor have been, I think, completely tiled, So that it's all very clean, very, all tiles, this whole. When I first went there, it was just kind of, some parts are paved, some parts are still kind of muddy. People are selling all kinds of things all around there. Now all the sellers, all the vendors have been moved to a Buddhist Chachka shopping complex with many floors. And it's like, oh, yeesh. But before, the Ba Khor had all these vendors of Buddhist ashki, and Buddhist shoppings, Buddhist shoppings. All that has been moved. Then the biggest circumambulation of Lhasa, that takes like 3 hours at least. One morning I attempted it, but never finished. The older residents of Lhasa, many of them, like older people, they would do this big route every day. People would get up, at 5, 4, 5. Really very bright at 4 or 5. Because all of China has one time zone, and that time zone is following the far eastern corner of China, where Beijing is. Yeah. So 5 o'clock in Lhasa, it's actually quite late already, so it's quite bright. I mean, yeah, 5 o'clock, it's already quite bright. So here then he says, circumambulate Lhasa, go see the 2 Jowo statues, then go see Samye. Samye, this is an inventory, like I said, of like the holy places. Samye is to the south of Lhasa, and that is where the very first monastery was built in Trisong Detsen with the help of Guru Rinpoche Pemasambhava. That's also a very important site. Then to circumambulate the Yoru Tarduk Temple. Tarduk Temple is in the Yarlong Valley, further south, so around where Samye is. It says it was built by the first Dharma king of Tibet. And this Tarduk Temple, these days, not many people know it. I didn't know it, but one time when I was there in Tibet, my tour guide, who was a former monk and comes from an aristocratic family, and so he knows a lot about that area. He took us to Tarduk, so it's mentioned here, to go and see the great seat of Ma Ngo. So this Ma Ngo, right? Ma Ngo is basically the main successor to Marpa. The main successor to Marpa was Ngo Choku Dorje. So the note down here says the seat of Marpa and Lama Ngo Ton Chodor, which is Ngo Ton Choku Dorje. So this Lama, Ngo Choku Dorje, was Marpa's main disciple. Milarepa was someone that just turned up very late in Marpa's life. In the same way, this is repeated, in Milarepa and Rechong. Then Gampopa, right, came late in Milarepa's life, only for a short period, but Gampopa becomes the famous successor. Rechong, known, but at this point, no lineage directly thinking of themselves as primarily from Rechongpa. Likewise, Ngo, the Ngo family, who were the main successors of Marpa, in their own time, they were renowned as the main branch of Milarepa's tradition. And not so much Milarepa, the main branch of Marpa's tradition, sorry. Ngo. So Rechongpa says, I want to go visit the seat where Marpa's main thing is continuing. So during Milarepa's time, I think, to the degree that he was known as Marpa's student, he wasn't seen as Marpa's most representative successor. It was Ngo. So the Mar Ngo seat is, Rechongpa says, I want to go visit that. And to go see both Loro and Niao. This I don't know who Loro and Niao are. I think they are names of areas. And beg for alms in the practice of equal taste. So what is this beg for alms in the practice of equal taste? This is a form of practice where for a period of time, the guru might prescribe for a disciple that they think is ready to go do this begging of alms. This begging of alms is not necessarily really for the purpose of accumulating, alms, right? Whether in the form of food or in the form of money. But rather, it is prescribed for a student in order to test their hopes and fears, in order to test their level of stability and equanimity. So some teacher might say to a student, okay, now you go to the Bodha Stupa, right, in Kathmandu, and put a box, a hat, a container in front of you, and sit there. Sit there and be like all the other beggars that are there. And so then there are religious people in robes, sitting there, right? And the truth is, like, the more serious religious people kind of look down on these guys in robes sitting around the stupa, turning a prayer wheel and chanting, because they're looked down upon because, there's sort of like this idea that they are just, doing it for a free ride. They're lazy, So some teachers will tell the students, okay, now it's time for you to go do that. So then you are ashamed, you don't want your friends to see you and this and that, Sometimes some teachers even more need to prescribe even stronger medicine, and tell their student, okay, not only that, you have to go there and beg, also every person that you see, try to talk to them. Doesn't matter what the topic, and you cannot choose. The teacher might say something like, every third person that walks by, or every seventh person that walks by, you have to start talking to them. And again, like, people might ridicule you, people might want to talk to you, people might run away from you, people might say, oh my God, this person has gone crazy. So you are supposed to deal with all the things that come up for you as you carry out the Guru's instructions to basically be strange. Or you should sit there, again, put a bowl in front of you and just babble. Yeah, just don't stop talking. Just talk to yourself. Tell stories to yourself. Then people, when people walk by, you're like, oh, they must think I'm crazy. And again, whatever comes up, So Rinpoche is asking for this, that last line. Beg for alms in the practice of equal taste. That means not affected by praise or blame, not affected by gain or loss, not affected by pain or pleasure, not affected by praise or blame. The 8 worldly concerns, basically. Fame and infamy. Having been requested in this way, the Jitsun replied, son, though there are beings for you to guide in Wu, the time has not come for you to go there yet. Do not go against what I say. Listen to this song. Born of the family of secret mantra with its supreme methods, Lord of the pure four kayas and four joys, hidden Buddha in human form, supreme among beings, to Marpa I bow. This auspicious day of the waxing moon, this special 8th day of the lunar moon, I, with yogic perception, am feeling so happy. The sun's light rays warm me like a fire crystal. You who bear the spear and banner in any army of hundreds, my attractive son called Rei Chungpa, please don't say these words you just spoke. Are you just saying this now, or have you had it on your mind? Do not let your ears be distracted. Wipe the rust from the mirror of your mind and listen clearly to this old man's song. When you go to solitary mountain retreats, what good will come from wandering the countryside? You meditate on the Guru as Buddha, what good will come for circumambulating Lhasa? When you're watching the show of your mind, what good will come of seeing the sights of Samye? When you cut fabrications from within, what good will the seat of Mangot do? When you're meditating on the key instructions of the whispered lineage, what good will Niao and Loro be? When you're gaining certainty in your own mind, what good will circumambulating Tarduk be? Basically, no need to go pilgrimage. Rei Chungpa's wanting to go, remember, is also related to him perceiving that, Milarepa is being disrespected with him being around. Now, does Milarepa know? Maybe he knows. And especially if he knows, here it shows that Milarepa isn't concerned about that he's been disrespected. More concerned to keep Rei Chungpa focused on working through what he needs to work on. Not go wander around, going to sacred sites, going to like important places. It's like, no, you should stay here, work through your kleshas. So in the Drigum Kagyu, there's one recent master said it is better to wear down. It's better to sit on a cushion, a meditation cushion, until it's flattened. Then to wear down 1,000 pair of shoes walking around on pilgrimage. Chungpa continued to fervently offer this request, to which Milarepa again sings another song. You, white snow lion of the snows on high, don't go to the valleys, but keep to the high snows. If you go down into the valleys, do you not fear your turquoise mane will be damaged? Show off your turquoise mane and stay in the high snows. Listen now to your Guru's words. You, vulture, king of birds upon the high rock, don't go to the lowlands, but keep on the high rock. If you go down into the lowlands, do you not fear your wings will be damaged? Show off your wings and keep on the high rock. Listen now to the Guru's words. The tiger that stays up in the high forest, don't go to the forest edge, but stay in the high forest. If you go down to the edges of the forest, do you not fear your striped fur will be damaged? Show off your striped fur and stay in the high forest. Listen now to your Guru's words. You golden spotted fish of the high lakes, don't circle the edge, but stay in the center. If you circle the edge of the lake, do you not fear getting caught in the net? Show off your golden spots and stay in the center. Now listen to your guru's words. You, Reichung Rodra from Guntang, don't roam the country, stay in mountain retreats. If you go and roam the country, do you not fear your experience and realization will be obscured? Sustain your perception and realization and stay in the mountains. Listen now to your guru's words. Yeah, basically, Milarepa doesn't want Rachel to wander. Rinpoche doesn't give up. Keeps pleading, which is the next section. This goes on, back and forth, back and forth. And I think for me, I think the section shows the complexity of Rinpoche and also how real of a portrait of a person, rather than these flat archetypes. Sometimes these characters can be very archetypal. Here, Rinpoche and Milarepa both very real people. Any thoughts, comments?
It seems to, a theme seems to be that Milarepa is saying to Rinpoche, have the answer inside. Around for it. In places. Where to look. Rinpoche didn't quite get that.
I get more a sense of like Rinpoche gets that, but he's like stuck on something else that Milarepa doesn't care about. He's stuck on not embarrassing Milarepa by getting all the attention that he's getting. So he sort of like wants to, like not outshine his guru. He's not comfortable with that. Fundamentally, because of that, he wants to leave. Now, Milarepa could be seeing more than that, more than even Rinpoche understands. So you almost my read on this chapter so far is like it looks like they're talking past each other. But I think a deeper point is Milarepa understands Rinpoche and Rinpoche's supposed reason. But Milarepa is showing him indirectly, your reason for wanting to leave, I don't care about that reason. Doesn't matter to me. People are disrespecting me and, that I'm being overshadowed by your achievements. It's like, I don't care about that. So don't go. Now, Interestingly, instead of Milarepa saying to him directly, I know why you want to leave. But he doesn't say that. Instead, he just responds to whatever Rechungpa says he is doing or wanting to do. I want to go to Rasa. I want to see the two Jovos. I want to go to the seat of Mango. Milarepa, instead of saying, yeah, those are all just excuses, Then he takes the opportunity to say, to give instructions to Rechungpa, reminding Rechungpa. Of course, Rechungpa have heard different versions of what Milarepa is saying. I mean, you and I have heard, the themes don't veer off too far from what we're really seeing again and again and again and again. So Milarepa takes this as yet another opportunity to remind Rechungpa of the teachings without directly saying, Rechungpa, I know why, and I appreciate, that you're concerned about how people look at me whenever you are around. Doesn't say that,
We actually did have some discussion on that point. Some confusion between the motivation, because he actually says both. And Milarepa does not indicate that he understands anything other, at least that's from discussion last week. Like, well, we're not seeing that Milarepa is responding other than the fact that the boy's not ready to go. But the boy is indicating both that he's primarily indicating that he wants to go for his own personal aggrandizement. And so there was a perspective that it was mainly hubris on his part. But he also says early on that he is concerned about the fact that he's getting more attention than the guru.
Yes.
So there could be. So the prime motivation, I guess I kind of thought was probably the first one presented, which was that he was concerned about usurping the attention of the group. And he thought that if he would remove himself from the environment, then they would be able to better appreciate what Milarepa has to offer, because Rechungpa wouldn't be not intentionally interfering, but just kind of another source of attention.
Yes.
So we kind of left it like, well, we're going to need to talk to you about that, because we really wasn't clear to us. And perhaps it's not clear to you either.
I think this is the power of the chapter. For me, at least, it's like, are we ever clear, why we're doing what we're doing or not doing what we're doing? I mean, we select, an explanation that we present to others, that we present to ourselves. An explanation that is acceptable to ourselves, acceptable to others, but what we select as an explanation is usually not the whole picture, or doing something and not doing something. So interestingly, Milarepa, instead of doing what therapists might do, which is to get you to see all those reasons and then start walking you through whether is this what you want, is this what you want, right? Milarepa has no time for that. Milarepa is just focused on, I don't really care why you want to go. I'm telling you, you're not ready. Why are you here? You're here to train. You turn up here because you want to get enlightened. You want to be Buddha. Now, whatever your reasons, you want entertainment. You don't want to embarrass me. In a sense, Milarepa is saying all of that doesn't matter, even if they're legitimate. They don't matter compared to the commitment to waking up for the benefit of beings. And so maybe in that way, Milarepa has no interest in, giving therapy to Milarepa.
Interesting perspective. It isn't one that we brought up in the group last time. We almost always run, so we're going to have to ask Dr. Lai because we don't know.
Sorry?
That's the usual state of being, as we need to talk to you about it because we don't know.
One thing I find interesting in what we've read so far is that Rinpoche doesn't see any other alternative other than leaving. When clearly Rinpoche is a Buddha and knows his realization and waking up, then.
Sorry?
And if Rinpoche is devoted to waking up, then seeing other alternatives than leaving, like. So it's just interesting that he only sees the option of leaving.
Again, I don't, right? I don't know if this was actually what happened. I only see like the narrator's kind of devices that they're using. So then in that way, right, it becomes more timeless, So I don't know exactly what Rinpoche sees or doesn't see, but here the narrator doesn't leave many options for Rinpoche. And so then, just I think perhaps this is what you're saying. Like if the narrator chooses to just give Rinpoche one option, when I can think of many other options, hey, how about talking to these people? How about telling you this, right? I mean, we could always ask those questions, but then the narrator doesn't give us that choice. And then I go, so what does the narrator want me to take home with this lesson, right? I think for me, what the narrator then want me to take home from this lesson is, yeah, often we think there's only one way, which is whatever way that I came up with and say, my way or the highway. That, this is the only solution. I have to leave, And the solution of this is the only solution I have to leave is often, right, as we all know, not solving the problem, just running away. Again, Milarepa doesn't care for the problem to be solved. As in the purported problem that Rinpoche is seeing. So in that way, Milarepa is quite uncompromising. So Milarepa might even, like in the different contexts, it's like, yeah, let the monastery fall apart. I don't care. What I care is the people who are here and their progress to awakening. Which can be quite frustrating if you are trying to keep the monastery going. Trying to keep the center going, so to say. Then you have a teacher figure that says, no, that's secondary. I don't care. The center can fall apart. As long as the center cannot exist or thrive at the price of, people involved forgetting or putting aside the reasons they got involved in the first place. Yeah.
Another thing, you're talking about the narrator and kind of what are they wanting us to take away, and Marissa is saying, you need to stay, really stay with your practice, is also, this question that I've asked myself and always coming back to is, what am I being loyal to? Am I being loyal to my aspirations of, enlightenment, Buddhahood? Am I being loyal to that? So what I mean,
right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So Milarepa, again, the narrator is one thing I think us to take that. It's like that Milarepa's loyalty is to that and that alone. Rechungpa's awakening. Rechungpa's progress towards, attaining Buddha. Milarepa doesn't even bother to unearth, Rechungpa's other problems. Might be like avoidance, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to talk about those things, You go find a therapist to deal with that. I want you to, get clear on, the main reason, right, that we are even teacher and student. Other times we have seen, how on other occasions, Milarepa goes along. Rechungpa basically drags him around. It's like, let's go to the village, let's go. And that earlier Rechungpa is clearly not this matured Rechungpa. This Rechungpa is come a long way. Here the narrator makes it mostly about him not wanting to embarrass his teacher. So he's excusing himself. But the earlier Rechungpa is all about, let's go get some excitement, Let's go into the village, Says Milarepa, saying, I know what you're up to, but okay. So Milarepa goes along. It would be really interesting to kind of reread this, tracking Rechungpa and Milarepa's, how they related to each other as time went on, A version of this is Rechungpa's pleas to be allowed to go to India. Again, that back and forth, and in that case, Milarepa relented in the end and said, "Okay, you can go." And then when he came back, all puffed up, look what I got, And in some cases, Milarepa even seemingly indulged that and say, "Okay, now you got it. Now you give it to me." And some of the lineage prayers for some of the practices that came down to us through Rechungpa. Lineage prayer, you supplicate Rechungpa first, and then you supplicate Milarepa. With Rechungpa, and then you say, and then from Rechung it went to Milarepa. Yeah, so anyway, I think today that's all I have. getting ready to leave. Day tomorrow, day after. Like hectic in terms of preparation of things going on, classes and all that, and then I leave for Mexico. So I don't know where, how, when. I think next Sunday I might be on the move at this time. Probably I won't be able to meet with you all. Following Sunday, we'll see. I'll let you all know.
Okay.
On the move. But sometimes on the move Sunday, it works. So, just a reminder, you all can, if you all want, on Tuesday, there's a chance to take the Bodhicitta vow. Bodhicitta vow. Bonjo Gyaltsen and Rinpoche that will be giving those vows. Zoom. So you all know about this, maybe? Yeah.
I shared the link to the EBS
Great.
page.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
I can also
So-
email it to everybody.
Sure. Yeah. I think the email that came out from Urban Dharma recently, kind of made it clear, like you're taking these vows with Rinpoche, doesn't in any way kind of tie you to Rinpoche or tie you to Drubun Kagyu lineage. This is different vow. To reaffirm motivation of attaining Buddhahood for the sake of others. Okay, so tata you all, and well, and also this Tuesday is the full moon day of the Saka Dawa month, the Saka month. So, very auspicious.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Goodbye, and we'll meet again soon.
Bye.